That was a fun one yesterday. Texans now tied for first place in the AFC South with 3 games left to play. It's unbelievable. Joe said that it's an all-time impressive victory for the Texans. I think that might be a little much there.
Is it?
A little much there?
Well, we talked on Friday. This definitely puts him in the category of folk hero of the for Texans with TJ Yates because of the fact that a lot of people had a lot of doubts about this game. And Case Keenum found a way to pull out a victory when you needed it most. It's a phenomenal win, and it elevates him more in the city, sure, but it elevates him with Texans fans. It has to.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to call it an all-time impressive victory like Joe does. And I don't want to stain the victory at all. This was still a great win, and it puts you in a spot where 3 games left to play. You probably control your own destiny. Joe plays with the playoff simulator a lot. I imagine
did a lot of that last night.
Did you play around with the idea of the Texans losing to the Browns, but then winning their final 2?
It pretty much doesn't matter.
What happens to the Browns?
Yeah, what happens to the Browns? It's these teams. If there's a bunch of teams at 10 wins, the Texans are in trouble. If there's a bunch of teams at 11 wins, including the Texans, they're plenty fine. Like, it's kind of all over the place.
So is 10 still the magic number?
10 is still pretty much the magic number.
Knowing that.
Wait, did you say they're in trouble if they get to 10 with other teams?
If the Bengals, the Bills, the Browns all have 10 wins, the Texans could still, in theory, miss the playoffs, but it's tough. Okay. Like 10 is the magic number.
So knowing that 10's the magic number, and you have 3 games to win 2, do you entertain the idea of C.J. Stroud still a little loopy to roll out Case Keenum again?
No.
So if he clears the protocol, there's no doubt about it for you.
Oh, if he clears the protocol this week, yeah, I think you bought enough time that you go with him because there was still a lot in jeopardy for parts of that game, but he did his job.
Yeah, what impressed you the most in this victory? 713-780-3776. I'll stop short to where Joe said, all-time impressive victory. Good win, needed win, maybe an improbable win a bit. I mean, it's a 3.5-point spread. But Tennessee's 5-9. Tennessee's 5-9. They're a losing team this season. The Tennessee Titans are.
But can I ask you a question? Legit.
I'll think about it.
Davis Mills. If Davis Mills plays that game yesterday, do they win that game?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't really think so.
That's exactly what I was thinking throughout the game. Like, for everybody that was hating on this decision, for everybody that was questioning Keenum and could Keenum do it, I think Keenum was the only guy on that roster capable of doing what happened yesterday and coming out with a W.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to that later in the show, why Case Keenum ultimately was the decision instead of Davis Mills. But what impressed you the most in the victory? 713-780-ESPN, 713-780-3776. This texture's on your side, Joe. Look how many people were out. All-time great win. I can't call a regular season win over a losing team an all-time great win in franchise history. I understand the franchise history has not seen a ton of great wins, but I can't call a regular season game against a losing team an all-time great victory.
But that's not what I said. I said it's an all-time impressive win.
I can't go that far. That's kind of the same thing.
What you did in that, like, your playoff hopes are pretty much on the line. Like, you have flexibility now. You need to win the rest of the season.
You got to get to 10
because you won this game. You won with Case Keenum. Mm-hmm. You won without Will Anderson. Your offensive line is beat up.
The defense looked great without Will Anderson, by the way. 7 sacks.
True. That's true.
2.5 sacks. What are we going to say about John Grenard's 12.5 sacks now? Now that Will Anderson wasn't on the football field and that John Grenard had 2.5 sacks, or how much are all of you going to tell me that Will Anderson's critical in all these sacks? The Texans had 7 sacks yesterday. John Grenard had 2.5. Will Anderson didn't play. So advanced win rate, X-sack, all of these things. Just saying. Love Will Anderson, but stop. Whenever you're talking up Will Anderson, let's stop talking bad about other players. Well, John Grenard wouldn't be anything if Will Anderson wasn't on the football field. Get over yourselves. Yes, he would. He proved it yesterday with 2.5 sacks. I'm sick of hearing that, and I'm glad that Grenard had a huge game. What was the most impressive thing to you, Blankers, in this victory?
Just that they persevered enough to find a way to win. The fact that when you went down in the pick six, and the way that it looked like it was just completely the walls were falling down around you, they could have folded up their tents, packed it up, and gone home. But the way they came back, and the way that starting the second half too, the way they just came back and started to fight back, and like they made adjustments, I think. But the fact that they got themselves back in the football game with sustaining the clock, doing the things that they needed to do, and putting points on the board, and just it was like a tale of two halves. I really had a lot of worry in the first half, and I felt so confident about the way they were playing the whole second half, and the fact that they never gave up was just a beautiful thing to me. So I think just their perseverance was fantastic.
This, to me, was a D'Amico Ryans game. Whenever we talked about it last week, Texans win if blank, Texans lose if blank. The one that stood out to me was they need to go out-scheme the other side. They need to go out-coach Mike Vrabel and Tim Kelly and whoever's calling the defensive plays for the Tennessee Titans. They need to be a better coaching staff and go win a game with their schematics. Go win a game with your coaching staff. And I feel like for the most part, they did that. Defensively, they definitely did that. They went to overtime with Tennessee, and they gave up 9 points on the offensive end. Remember, 7 of the points for Tennessee was a pick 6.
Right.
So D'Amico Ryans' defense held Tennessee to single-digit points. I thought they were phenomenal defensively. To me, it was a D'Amico Ryans defensive scheme. Bobby Slowick, I didn't think was fantastic in the first half. Look how slow they started. They almost didn't score at all in the first half. It was a last-moment field goal, which maybe they should have went for it instead of kicking the field goal. But hey, all's well that ends well. But Slowick did a good job in the second half. Committed to the run game, stuck to the run game. Singletary had a really good football game. So first and foremost for me, D'Amico Ryans out coaching the Tennessee Titans, and then Bobby Slowick in the second half finally making some adjustments. Coaches had to go win a game because of the scheme, and the coaches went and won a game because of the scheme.
We were also talking about the fact that the running game for each team could be the difference maker, and for Derrick Henry, who, 1,018 yards over his last 5 games against the Texans, and they handled him. They hammered him. I mean, at one point, he had more carries than he had yards. And they just found a way to make sure that he or the running game of the Titans was not a factor. That was massive. I mean, and I didn't see that coming either. So the entire D-line and the way that they handled the run game was extremely impressive.
Yeah, that was to me, they had to win both sides of the ball in the running game. Not just the offensive side, not just the defensive side. They had to win both sides of the running attack, and that's exactly what happened. You mentioned what they did to Derrick Henry. He had a lousy game. 16 carries, 9 yards for Derrick Henry. And you know what's? Then you look at what the Texans did offensively. They ran for 148 yards. Devin Singletary ran for 121 yards. So they won it on the offensive side running the football, and then they stopped the run, which is something that we haven't been able to say a whole lot with the Houston Texans until this year. D'Amico Ryans has kind of figured that out. What's really impressive, too, about stopping the run, they did it out of their nickel formation. They played Desmond King all but 2 snaps. The third linebacker was wasn't on the field. There wasn't a linebacker, and I'm not counting Sanders because Sanders is an edge. He's listed as a linebacker, but he's an edge. Watch him play. He lines up on the defensive line. There was not a third linebacker who played a single defensive snap. The Texans' base defense yesterday was a nickel formation, and they stopped the run with their nickel, which is really great, and it's also like son of a gun. It's really bad because it was really great yesterday, and then it made me think, I wish they would have played nickel 100% of snaps against the Jets because I bet you they would have won that game if they played nickel 100% of the snaps against the Jets.
Did he only play special teams?
Yeah, go look at the snap counts. Only play special teams.
I mean, he made one play on special teams.
It was a good play.
Yeah, it was a good play, but I went, wow. I mean, other than that, I haven't seen him in the game, and I didn't look at the snap counts, but he wasn't a factor. Christian Harris, thankfully, was. He was really all over the football field. But, yeah, I mean, they played, a defense that was surprising, but they were effective. So kudos to D'Amico for that as well.
And then you ready to apologize a little bit to Kaimi Fairbairn? You've dragged some mud on the name of Kaimi Fairbairn.
I don't know why we got to call me out for that, but yeah, I've also been very clear in the fact that I don't like his contract. My biggest thing was that he was
him a raise.
The 5th highest kicker in all of football, and that bothered me. But yeah, I thought about it when he made the kick. I was like, well, he's definitely way better than Amendola, and Amendola wouldn't have made that kick. So sure, okay. Kudos to Kaimi Fairbairn because having a big leg that's accurate is a big thing, and he was a difference maker.
It's really nice to have a good kicker. You couldn't have Amendola for 5 games. That's not even in the realm of possibility. Now, he tried it once and he missed it, but it's nice to have a real kicker. You can see the game changer that he has because he's got a big leg. Last year, he's one of the top 3 most accurate kickers in the league. I think most people, in fact, I tweeted about this 2 weeks ago. I was like, because I feel like most people were on your side, where Fairbairn's overpaid. He's a mediocre kicker that's making too much money. And when I tweeted something in that vein a few weeks ago, I got backlash. What are you talking about? Everybody loves Kaimi Fairbairn, which I was like, they do? That's news to me. I'm surprised by that. But anybody who was still like hanging on not liking Ka'imi Fairbairn, I think is jumped over to the other side.
And you know what? It's unfair to Ka'imi Fairbairn because I think that a lot of the animosity or any kind of ill will came from the fact that Bill O'Brien overpaid him.
That's fact.
And so everybody, no matter what you do on the football field, when everybody hears the numbers and knows, hey, this guy's one of the top 5 highest paid kickers in football, and the team sucks, you're going, what the hell are we doing? But he definitely earned everybody back on his side.
Yeah, I think everybody's on the Ka'imi Fairbairn train. What a welcome back for Fairbairn. Got the game ball and everything. Could have gave it to Case. Go Cougs. Instead, you give it to Ka'imi Fairbairn.
Could have given multiples and given one to Case. He deserved it.
He said they were going to give just the one, and they gave it to Emmy, which is fine. Go Cougs. Case doesn't need it.
And I loved how D'Amico, right before he gave it to him, was like, we missed this guy. he did not hide that they were kind of over the life with Matt Amendola.
I hope Matt Amendola did not watch that post-game speech.
He probably did, and he's probably a little hurt today.
I was listening to some of the press conference on the way here too, and D'Amico was like, "Yeah, it's great to have a kicker again." It's like, oh my gosh!
I mean,
they're bus driving this guy. Like it is brutal.
The way D'Amico handled that last minute, there's no way that he just runs the clock out and goes, "We're going to kick it from 54." If Amendola's your kicker, you're trying to do everything in your power to gain about 7 to 10 more yards, or you may not kick it.
No, you're right. They would have tried to be more aggressive, pushing the ball up the field. And D'Amico answered that today too. Not about Amendola, but about Fairbairn. Why did you get conservative on those last couple of plays once you got into range? We trusted Fairbairn. We didn't want to get another penalty. We didn't want to risk turnover, so we were in his range. Let's end the game that way, see if he can knock down a kick. Knocks down a kick. Texans win, and they're tied for first place with 3 games left to play.